Hello YouTube. Today I thought about making a video working on a Volvo XC60. This is the new engine. It's the D4204T5. I think the same applies to the T14 engine. Now the reason why I made this video, it's not easy to find videos online of people working on these cars, working on these engines. So I thought if I can help person or two service their own cars or get a bit more detailed understanding of how these are taken apart, put back together, and hopefully fixed. I'm hoping this might help a few of you. The reason why this engine is being taken apart is due to fuel consumption and also coolant loss. I also have a bit of a crack in the cylinder head, and that brings us to this boy. It's a replacement cylinder head for the car. I've already tested it with a straight edge, so it's been tested with a straight edge and it's flat. I give it a good cleaned off the old gasket, cleaned all the mating surfaces. I've taken the valves out. The other side of the engine, of the head, has been also cleaned. Don't mind the oil, this is just superficial. I didn't want to clean it fully because this has metal inserts along with aluminium, so I don't want it to start rusting as it's been sitting here for a bit. So this engine head is going to replace the existing head in the car, and hopefully this all goes to plan. Now I'm not going to details on steps to take the engine cover off or small things like that, and I'll probably insist on the more important bits as far as I can see them as important. So the job starts with removing the battery. Before that, take the engine cover off, and then you lift this rubber, and then this needs to be twisted out. I've already done that, and then these clips come out, this unit comes out, and that's the wee twisty mechanism there, and then obviously that gives us access to the battery. First negative with a 10mm socket, and then positive. Alright, so main battery removed, and also this is the start-stop battery, the small one. I've also removed the negative terminal from there. That's an 8mm. Right, so what I did next, I covered the terminals with insulation material, so plastic, some rubber over there, just to avoid any contacts with the batteries. Also positive and negative terminals have been covered with these caps, which I kept from when I bought brand new batteries. Next I will remove the airbox, ducting, and loosen up all sorts of cables, and the next step will be to remove the injectors. A bit further into the job, I removed a few components, a few cables, connection to the high pressure rail, all this wiring loom. There's three bolts, one up here, one down here, and one at the back connected to the vacuum pump, and these come out, sort of. I will need to remove a couple of connections from here, but just to show you what coolant related visual signs look like. There you go. You can see that there was some sort of frothing, partially due to short journeys, but this is also coolant related. The car has not been losing too much coolant, but I would say about 100 milliliters every 200 miles, although it hasn't been getting worse in the last couple of thousand miles. But anyways, the job needs done. Head gasket needs to be replaced, so we continue with the head removal. Okay, so we're not looking too bad. We're making a bit of progress. Fuel lines out of the way. Harness is nearly out of the way. We only have these 3 connectors, but my plan is to remove the plastic intake first, and the throttle body and this whole assembly will allow me to get access to those bolts. Top side also done. Injectors just need to be removed. I'll leave them here for now because I want to focus on this, but yeah, this is how it looks like after about an hour of work. Let's continue. Right, I'm just marking these 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are vacuum lines. I removed a camshaft sensor just so I can take this out of the way, and then these lines will also be removed just to facilitate removing the vacuum tank and the EGR valve along with the EGR pipe. These solenoids, they sit like that, and you just have to push both ends in so that you can release them. So I've done one and there's another one over there. I'll finish doing those up, take that plug off, and then it's time for the EGR valve and cooler assembly to come off. This is how it looks like now. So EGR pipe is off. Cables are a little bit more loose. Those vacuum lines are numbered. So far you can see all the bolts removed, and the rest is just taking stuff apart. I'm taking down this flaps actuator, and I just want to make sure that I have the right position. Okay, so that needs to fit into that, so I need to remember that whenever I put it back together. Intake manifold out. This is it, loose, fairly loose. So there were 2 clips I had to undo right here at the bottom, so I literally just went like this, and both of them will open, and then you can take this throttle body out. And then there's a connector, which is this one here, and that disconnects from here. So the reason why I wanted to remove the throttle body was so that I can access these last 2 cables in order to remove the full wiring loom out of the way, so that I can work on removing the head. Just another quick note here, I'm trying to keep all the screws and bolts safe. As you can imagine, there's a lot to take apart. So what I do is I put them on a piece of cardboard, like for example this intake manifold, and I make sure that if they're different sizes, I make a note. So for example, this one is at the bottom side of the intake manifold towards the back of the engine, so most of the intake manifold bolts are here, the main 5, but then there's a tiny one at the bottom at the back right there, so just keep that in mind. Now that we have the intake manifold out of the way, while I'm going to remove the rocker cover, the plan is to drain the coolant. So this involves 2 parts. One is this little 3D printed petcock, I think it's called, and then the other one is a piece of tubing, and I will show you what these do. As you can see, under the car there's a little drain valve right here, and I'm going to be using the petcock and the tube to try and drain the coolant without making too much of a mess. I had to use a different hose because that one wasn't the best. Now the coolant is still pink, doesn't seem dirty. I think it's the dye that I used previously to trace the coolant leak, which kind of makes it a bit fluorescent. But yeah, it seems like it's draining okay. And yeah, Don't forget to loosen the filler cap, otherwise you'll have vacuum and no coolant. The car was still losing coolant, as you can actually see here in more detail. There we go. If you're wondering, by the way, I took the injectors out and most of the screws are loose. I just need to loosen up these middle section bolts, and then the rocker cover can come off. And anyways, if you're wondering how I ended up concluding that it's the head gasket, I'll show you with a little tool that I bought. It's a Chinese little tool, but it definitely saved my life with this, and it's a really handy tool to have. There it is. So they didn't sponsor me, I just bought this because I thought it's really neat. It's a boroscope. I'll show you how this works. So there we go. It's just a normal boroscope. The nice thing about it is it swivels, so it goes 180 degrees both ways. And what this allowed me to do was to look back up the cylinder head and find out that I had a gasket leak, and I'll show you that just now. I'm hoping you can see this. So I'm gonna go down cylinder number 3 because I know it was pretty nasty. Anyways, we're in. That's our cylinder. Nothing too bad here, but you can see it's clean, so that means it's been washed. But we can actually see the leak. This is just the diesel, by the way, coming in. That's the glow plug there. You can see that there's a leak in the head gasket, which technically should be all dry around. But when we get to this, we can see the reflection of the. It keeps on going to about here. Yeah, that's pretty clear here, where the moisture starts, and it just keeps on going. Finally, the time has come to remove the rocker cover and see what lurks beneath. See, yeah, it's coming out. Right, okay, there's a little screw on the back, so that needs to come off as well. Okay, so this was the culprit. Sits right there at the back onto the turbo hose. Let's see if it wants to come out now. Right, let's see how it looks like. It's actually not too bad up here. Yeah, some scoring on the cams, but I would say that's acceptable for an engine with nearly 150,000 miles on it. Next job is trying to take the exhaust manifold out. We'll see how that goes. I removed the top turbo cover, which sits kind of like this on top of the turbo, and to do that I had 3 bolts. Funny enough, this one was longer. That's the one here, and then there's one here and another one at the bottom right there. So that's them. And now another fun job, which is trying to get that lower shield off, which goes from there under the turbo, and then yeah, here there were 2 bolts, so I took this one out, and then there was another one right where my finger points, somewhere around there. So I had to take one out, that one out with a bit of an extension, which I inserted under that green hose, and that kind of helped me take it out. And now I have a few more bolts at the back, but I don't know which ones they are, so I'm going to find out with the borescope. Right, this was a bit of a setback, so I'm going to remove the cover. So there's a few of these plastic retainers, and this should come out now. Let's see if it does indeed come out. By the way, wipers removed. There it is. She's out. So hopefully this will give me a bit more room to work behind here. I'll probably need to take this metal plate as well, just to give me more room. See how I can do that shortly. More parts taken apart. So after taking this out, I had to take 4 screws out. So 1, 2 at the bottom there. Where is it? There. And then 3, I think it was here. And then 4 was down there. And then this technically should come out, but we have this, which I had to unclip. There's 2 clips on the sides, you can see them here. Same on the other side. And then this comes out. I had to remove a positive terminal that goes to the battery, which comes into here. Okay, and I think the next thing is to take that black rubber thingy off, so I can slide this whole assembly out so that I can get a bit more access at the back. That's the plan anyways. This is the next day. Okay, this is out of the way and we have a bit more room to work with. And just to explain what the issue was, it's this little washer that sits here, which was a real pain to get out. It's literally at the bottom of the heat shield. But yeah, finally we're getting somewhere. I had quite a bit of shielding to remove from the back, and most of it is fairly loose now, but it's kind of sitting in my way, so I'm trying to now remove this plastic turbo feed hose from the top to the bottom turbo, which is almost loose. All the bolts are out. Yeah, it wasn't too hard to do. So that's the bottom part with the 2 screws, screw holes, bolt holes, and that's the top part. It just needed a bit of a whack to get it out of the way, and now we have a bit more room. What a pain this was. So it sits kind of here, and it was in the way. I couldn't get to the screws of the exhaust manifold, so this had to come out, but it was sitting behind the other heat shield like that, and then it just wouldn't budge out, so I had to kind of bend it into place. I removed the other, so I removed this turbo connection pipe, and then I removed the other one as well. It comes up to here at the back of the turbo, and it goes to there. So that's another plastic baffle, I think it's called. So I removed that one just to get a bit more room to get me access to these bolts, which I will hopefully take out. There's one bolt behind this that's still holding, and I would need to access it from here, but I have this heat shield in the way, which I can't get out. So next is taking this sensor out. So it's this one coming out, so that I can move this heat shield out of the way of it. Right, so the sensor broke. First victim of this repair, but hopefully this will allow me to remove that heat shield. And yeah, new sensor already purchased. I'm just waiting for it to arrive. It is what it is. Sometimes these things happen. Looks like the turbo oil return pipe needs to come out. I just can't get that heat shield out, and I need it out so I can remove those bolts. So this comes out. I'll loosen it and pull it out. Most of the bolts have been successfully removed. I loosened the top ones too. Hopefully everything at the back is kind of clear for the head to come off. Next thing, I'll need to remove the EGR valve and cooler, and then remove the timing belt. So I'll need to remove the engine support and remove the timing belt, and then we can deal with this. So the car is on the jack, supported very well. 3 jacks on the 3 jacking points. There's a jack on the underside of the engine, and then there's another jack to support the gearbox, just to make sure. And then we have the timing cover opened. I've already set a pin and a high pressure fuel pump. It's our stretch mark for the timing belt, which has been recently changed, but I will change it again. There we go, another full rotation. As you can see, the timing marks are on the top, so that little mark right here matches the metal mark, which you can see right there at the edge of my finger. It's a tiny little mark, but yeah, they match perfectly. Fuel pump again matches again. Markings for the tightness. Water pump doesn't really matter, and of course we should have it in time at the crankcase as well. Next thing is taking the crankcase pulley. I forgot to just do a small check to see how these markings align. So that's kind of how the cams align when we're at the timing marks. So the last lobes are at the top, and the first lobes are kind of 90-degree inside. And then if we move around, this is how it's looking like on this side. And the next thing is to remove the cam cover to see how the geared wheels align. Okay, so I just took the cam cover off just to check the teeth. So this is how they align. Let's check the other side. It looks like there's 2 little dots. Let me try and show you better. So those are the 2 little dots that I mentioned. I don't have a special tool, so what I did to lock the cams in place, I use this large hex, and what I'll do is I'll take the bolts out next. So basically that's why I needed the cams to stay there. Okay, we're nearly ready to take the head out. This should slide away, allowing me to take the head out. And then everything else is fairly loose. Don't think I have any other bolts, so with the exception of those three at the back, which I'll take out soon. So yeah, we're nearly ready to take the head out. All the lifters are out. Everything is set for removing the head. And this is exactly what we're gonna do, starting from the outside towards the inside. I'm even gonna follow the instructions. This is the order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we'll do exactly that. I will slacken them each one at a time, and then slacken them again and again until they're fairly loose, and then I'll take them out fully because I don't want to warp the block. Let's see how they go. Okay. And we continue. Now we'll try and do 90 degrees if I can. Okay. Another 90 degrees. Okay, I thought I might give you the honor to watch this head being opened up, providing that I took all the bolts out. We'll find out, I suppose. Okay, so it looks like I will eventually need to take this pump out. This was my contraption to loosen the bolt. So 24mm socket with the pin and a socket, the other socket in, just to keep it tight, and so that the aluminum doesn't break from the pin going down. So I was able to loosen it. It wasn't all that tight, to be honest. Pump out of the way. So I was here, the bolt, and it was going all the way to the block. I couldn't lift it because of that. So let's see how it works now. This is the other side of the gasket. And the block. Which looks fairly okay, I'd say. It's not looking too bad. This is the head before any cleaning. Don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a crack in the head. See, there's coolant on that valve, it shouldn't be there. This was one of my suspicions. And this here, it's been washed again. Some weird pattern. Same here, and look at that. That's a very weird black spot. This is the head put back together with lapped valves and pressure tested. If you're curious on how I did the pressure testing, I don't have a special tool, I just used the DIY approach. This is the device, so it's literally just a vacuum kit, and I attached one of these caps that usually goes on top of the coolant tank, and I created a nice seal here. Started the vacuum pump, and then obviously vacuum in the system, turned off the vacuum pump while keeping vacuum in the system, and checked to see if there's a good seal, and I would say it keeps seal for quite a long time. So anyways, just a way, something to help you out in case you don't have designated tools. I think they're fairly expensive, they're over £100 for a few which seal here, and that cheap tool, if you have it obviously, does the job. Okay, I put firewall gasket, the exhaust gasket, which is this one. It just sits there for now. The next step is to open up the head gasket. Okay. Let's see how it looks like. Clean my hands a bit. Clean hands. It says stop here, so that's what we will do. Okay, so the holes correspond to the number of holes that the previous gasket had. And next, in goes the head. That's it in. The head is on. I have torqued it to 20 Newton meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I repeated the process at 50 Newton meters, and then I marked the position of each bolt so that I'm ready now for the next step, which is 120 degrees for each bolt, and then repeat 120 degrees for each bolt, so a total of 240 degrees in 2 stages. First 120 degree torque finished, and all bolts should have the markings at roughly the same location. And now the second stage. Whew, this wasn't an easy task. Second time torquing them was definitely harder, but yeah, all the bolts are in the correct location. Looks like I haven't missed any. So yeah, whatever it is, the head gasket is done. So next step, as with the disassembly, we just go the other way around. So turbo, bolts, and then ancillaries, etc, etc.